Hello there, friends. This is Spencer Michaud, and today we're going to be talking about the full moon in the second decan of Aquarius. Hope that you're having a wonderful afternoon out there. Hope you're staying cool. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things associated with Aquarius today. The full moon, we're going to talk about the decans, the tarot, the fixed stars. We're going to talk about the sun in Leo. We're going to talk about the hosts of these moon significations, the lunar host, the solar host. And then we're going to kind of take you through a progression of this full moon and how it's going to unfold over the weeks ahead. So buckle in. We're going to be here for a little bit, but please let me know that you are here when you are stopping in. Let me know where you're stopping in from. That is always exciting to see all my friends stopping in from around the world. Rachel Fletcher is here. It says, Happy Lammas from rainy Roanoke, Virginia. Yes, Happy Lammas. Or Lunasa, I believe you say it as well. A cross holiday in Leo season. So this is an exciting day for those of us who follow the rhythm of the seasons. Happy Lammas to you, Rachel, and hope everything's going well your way, my friend. Fion is here. Hello, Fion. Just remembered Saturn, this moon, is ruled by upside down face, sad face Saturn in Aries. Well, yeah, it's a little bit of a challenging moon as far as its host, but we'll try to break down some of the ways that we can navigate it gracefully. But hope everything's going well with you, Fion, and help over there across the pond, I believe, joining us from Ireland. Follow Fion for his not only his astrological musings, but some of their comedic stylings as well. So thank you for joining us today, Fion. All right, a couple announcements before we dive into it today. So, friends, you can find me over at spencermichaud.com. I have all sorts of offerings over there if you would like to work with me. I love getting to know all of you, working with you, getting all these notes organized to help guide you through the challenges, the ups and downs of life, analyzing all of your mythological stories that come up through the chart, through the tarot, through the I-Ching, all of those things. So you can find all of that at spencermichaud.com. Click on the Book Now button to schedule a reading or to schedule a class. We have a class coming up as well, or a teaching session. I love to do teaching sessions and tutoring. I love sharing this wisdom and helping to guide you on the path. So find me over at spencermichaud.com. Also have a little sale going on. This is the Sag Moon Magic sale. Use the code Sag Moon Magic for 20% off all of my digital recordings. This is to celebrate my beautiful daughter's foray into social media, and she has a TikTok account, Sag Moon Magic, if you'd like to follow her there on Instagram or TikTok. We've got some wonderful new friends joining us on the channel, so everybody gets to benefit from that. 20% off all of the recordings. I've got these decans of all of the different signs here. You can see the decans of Virgo listed here, but I took all 36 faces and had 12 different Decanic webinars where I broke down all of the significations. And a lot of it I'll share with you on this channel, but if you want to really in-depth dive into it, and if you want to support the channel, it's a great way to support the channel. Go check that out at the store. Also have the Dignity and Devotion series where we're breaking down astrological magic and planetary magic through the 7 traditional planets. We've got all of the 7 traditional planets up through Saturn in the store right now. We've got Saturn coming up in a week, so make sure you sign up for that. And then there's another webinar called Stars and Cards where I talk about the connection between tarot and astrology. Speaking of dignity and devotion, this upcoming Saturday, a week from tomorrow as I'm recording this, Saturday, August 9th, I'm going to be doing the last in our 7 planetary series with my beautiful partner Tanya Andrews of Third Coast Mojo. We are going to be breaking down all the significations of Saturn, the mythology, how to deal with Saturn and its different dignities, domiciles, debilitations, how to mitigate some of those things within your chart. We're going to be talking about all of the magical associations with Saturn, how to craft a ritual practice around Saturn, how to create an altar, how to elect a great election if you want to work with that energy. So I hope that you'll join us for this. It's been a labor of love over the course of almost a year now, working together with Tanya on this. And this is the culmination. It's going to be Saturday, August 9th. Funnily enough, the day of the full moon in Aquarius. So that seems appropriate. So I hope that you'll join us for that. You can find that at the Book Now button at spencermichaud.com. Speaking of Third Coast Mojo, you can also find Tanya over on Etsy. Third Coast Mojo is an excellent magical materia business that she runs, and she has all sorts of great stuff that is magically elected through using planetary elections. Here you can see a Sun in Leo elected easy life hoodoo formula. Really great stuff to smooth your path and to shine some light on your life in these challenging times. We just had a Mercury Cazimi. This is a great way to kind of get some ideas about what our most authentic self is. Easy life can really smooth that path. So hope that you'll support her over there on Third Coast Mojo. You can also sign up for my newsletter and get 10% off anything that I offer. It helps you to stay up to date of when we're going to go live, when I have offer discounts, any writings that I might do about the upcoming astrology. You can check that out by subscribing to the newsletter. And then finally, if you would like to support the channel, you can buy a super chat while I'm live on YouTube today, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com. There's actually a link pinned in the chat here today as I'm going live. I've been reading a lot about gift economies. I don't know about all of you, but late stage capitalism is kind of a bummer. So I have been trying to read all about how to look at all these crazy books I've got. Sacred Economics, The Gift, Indigenous Economies. All of these are talking about gift economies. And this is something that I really believe in quite a bit and am trying to learn more about, is how do we kind of move beyond this extractive capitalistic model and have this reciprocal exchange, an idea that was introduced to me in Robin Wall Kimmerer's Braiding Sweetgrass. One of the things I try to do is I try to keep my as much of my material out of a paywall situation as possible. And really one of the ways that you can help facilitate and really buy me the time to keep doing all this is through that reciprocal model. And that is easily supported through buymeacoffee.com and through Super Chat. The other things you can do with this model, it doesn't just have to be material donations. Every time you leave a comment, that helps with the algorithm. Liking, subscribing, sharing this on your social media feeds, sharing this by word of mouth with a friend to get new subscribers and new people in the door, that can be helpful as well. So there's all sorts of ways that we can contribute to each other in this reciprocal gift model. But it's something I'm learning more about, and we'll see how it unfolds over time. But thank you so much for everyone who is here and is able to contribute in whatever way you feel comfortable. All right, friends, that's what I've got for our announcements. Let's dive into it. We got some more friends stopping in I'd like to welcome. Sirius Black is here. Says, hey, it's Carl. What's up, Carl? Happy Llamas from Almonte, Ontario. How you doing, Carl? Hope everything's going well with you, buddy. Carl had some fixing recently. Had some parts fixed. And I hope you're convalescing and healing up well, my friend. I've been thinking about you, and I hope everything's going well. Remember to delegate. Let people help you when you need it, and I know that you will. So thanks for stopping in today, bud, and it's good to hear from you. KP is here. Karen, how you doing, KP? Says, hi, Spencer and all, joining from Cleveland, off work today. Excited to just relax and catch a live. Isn't that nice, Karen? Just being able to chill out, relax, and create some space in our life. There's another book that I'm reading that I think goes along well with that gift economy. It's called Margin, and this is by, let's see, Richard A. Swenson. It says, restoring emotional, physical, financial, and time reserves to our overloaded lives. And I think that this goes hand in hand with switching away from an extractive capitalistic model and moving towards a gift economy, is creating that space in our life where we don't have to just rush around and always have to be doing something and filling our time 24/7. I try to take my time on this channel, and I hope that it's a restorative space for you. I'm learning more about it. Margin is a great book. Really some great ideas in there about creating some of that space. So Karen, let's relax together and look at some astrology. Javiera is here. Hello, Javier. Nice to see you and stopping in. I hope everything's going well your way. Javier says, yes, books. Yes, I had a nice book stack. I haven't shared this stack yet, but I'll show you my books. I always love sharing a good book stack. So I just mentioned Margin by Richard A. Swenson. He frames this he is a Christian, so he's framing this in some Christian language, but a lot of the things that are, if that's something that you follow, that might work for you. If that's something that is traumatic for you, there is still some really good stuff in here about the content rather than the vehicle. I myself I'm not a practicing Christian, but I do appreciate some of the things that Richard A. Swenson talks about in this book. Another one that I like, The Gift by Lewis Hyde, right? So this is how the creative spirit transforms the world. Okay, this is one about appreciating the value of art and talking about the gift economy. Love this book. First Things First by Stephen R. Covey. Okay, this is author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This book is about kind of time management and like creating more space within your life. Indigenous Economics by Ronald L. Trosper. I haven't dived into these yet. I just ordered these. This was inspired by Robin Wall Kimmerer's Braiding Sweetgrass and the Serviceberry and some of her bibliography, and just trying to figure out different ways to work in the world. I just never felt comfortable with this late stage capitalism, and it's getting worse. And I know that there's a better way for us to live. Charles Einstein. This is called The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. This is the author of another book called Sacred Economics: Money, Gift, and Society in the Age of Transition. So just a little project I'm doing that I'm working on. Maybe it will turn into something. Who knows? Just trying to educate myself on different ways of being in the world that might be more in alignment with my values and kind of more heart-centered. I'm feeling like the world's just speeding up, and all I want to do is create space and slow down a little bit and appreciate the journey. And it has become harder as the rapid pace of our life increases. So I don't know if any of you are feeling this way, but if you are, leave me a comment. Let me know how this affects you in your life, and if this is maybe we can put our heads together to figure out how to navigate this world. Rachel says, "Hi, Sirius Black. Hope your recovery is going well." Yes, thank you. For everyone, give Carl a good, maybe not a pat on the back, but wish him a speedy recovery. Oh, hey, Tarja, how you doing? Hi, Tarja, joining us from Finland. Nice to see you, friend. Hope everything's going well your way across the pond, and you're having a nice evening over there in Finland. Chad is here. What's up, Chad? Nice to see you, my friend. He says, I'm in Cleveland, too. Nice. Well, you and Karen will have to get together and see if you can figure out a way to connect in the real world, potentially. Javier says, I love seeing a good book stack. Yeah, me too. I love books, and I love filling my head with some new knowledge, right? And I've been taking some time to make sure that I carve out time to read, because, you know, as we get deeper and deeper into this acceleration, I guess, whatever it is, sometimes it's harder to carve out space to feed our brains, to feed our souls, etc. So I'm really trying to protect that time. And right after I do my journaling and eat my breakfast, I read for I set my timer for 45 minutes. And oftentimes I set it again because I'm having such a good experience doing that. But I protect that time, and I make sure that that's a practice that I'm getting within. So yeah, it can be a luxury to have that time, but we have to create that. We have to create that in our lives. Carl says, early days, taking baby steps. You take it easy, Carl. Take it easy, bud. One day at a time. Javier says, I definitely feel that. I never seem to get enough done with all my mental illness and being a single parent. Yeah, Javier, it is, as someone who has gone through some of the single parent challenges, it is definitely a difficult row to hoe sometimes, right? And I think that when we have all these pressures on us that can lead to having challenges with our mental health, that makes it even more difficult. So hopefully we're trying to restore some balance to that. How can we be voices for the opposite of overwhelm, the opposite of overload, the opposite of instant gratification, which was a word that I had difficulty with last week because I was just burnt out. I think my brain was just burnt out, and a lot of things were glitching and working a lot slower. But now that Mercury has been Cazimi, I think that, and I've had a few days to kind of rest a little bit, maybe things will work out a little bit better. That's the beautiful thing about resting. Is sometimes when we allow ourselves to have that time away, that time off, that time away from our devices, that time away from our schedules, that time away from trying to progress all the time like a hamster on a wheel, we actually can get more and better work done. It's really quite the paradox. So we'll brainstorm, Javier. We'll see what we can come up with as a group here. All right, friends. Well, that's some book stack stuff. Let's talk about this full moon in Aquarius. So we have a full moon in Aquarius on the 9th of August, one of the things that I'm celebrating today is Jupiter being released from its malefic enclosure. So we've had a sort of an experience, and I'll show you. I'll bring the chart up here. So here we're using little chart here today. We're gonna try little chart for a little while, okay? But as you can see, now that Venus, right here, this is the full moon chart. But now that Venus has perfected its square to Saturn in Aries, it is now intervening in between Saturn's malefic ray on one side of Jupiter and Mars's malefic ray on the other side. So we have Venus that's helping to kind of smooth the waters now. And we might be able to do some Jupiterian expansive nurturing, bringing things to completion, ordering our environments a little bit easier. That might come a little bit easier now that we have Venus there to help. And we are building, friends, to a really exciting Venus-Jupiter conjunction at Jupiter's degree of exaltation, conjoining Sirius, one of the most powerful fixed stars in the sky that symbolize the return of fertility to the Nile River Valley in ancient Egyptian society. So some exciting times coming up. It's not without challenges, though. We'll talk about sort of the big picture thoughts here. Let's see. So a couple big picture things. We've got the sun in Leo 2 with Mercury retrograde. Okay, Mercury is about to station direct. So it's preparing to station direct as we come to our full moon. Our full moon in Aquarius is going to be Saturday, August the 9th, 3:55 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The day of the Saturn webinar, if you want to join me for that. But we're preparing for Mercury to station direct, which is exciting. We've been going through this Mercury retrograde period where we've been trying to figure out what is our identity externally, and does that match up with who we are inside? Just from a personal perspective, I enjoy a slower paced life. I enjoy taking time to be out in my garden, to not have a jam-packed schedule, to take time to read, to take times to contemplate and be with spirit and with the divine and let it and be available for spirit. That's interesting. This is what Margin is really talking about, is how do we become available for whatever the universe, the direction the universe wants to guide us in. And that really started to change my way of thinking things. Sometimes the things that we are jamming our schedules with and planning are, not necessarily the things that we're meant to do. And sometimes the greatest works that we do come to us when we're kind of leaving space to be available for where spirit or the divine, God, whatever you want to call it, wants to direct us towards. So to me, this Mercury retrograde period has been helping me to try to understand, how can I bring this internal feeling of wanting to create space in my life, of appreciating a slower paced life, and bring that into my work. I know that I do that a little bit, but there's been times where I've felt like I've been trying to keep up with the Joneses of social media, of trying to be more on these channels to please the algorithmic gods. And really, honestly, it's just not me. It's not my pace. So that realization is helping me to try to research and understand what a more authentic expression would be, to work within some of these systems, but also maybe to work outside of them and still be able to do the work that we do. So this is another theme that we're seeing with this full moon, is communication between the center, the Leo sun energy, and the people on the fringe, the exiles, the ones that don't necessarily want to conform to whatever the prevailing energy of the times are. So that's interesting with Mercury stationing direct. We've got this moon in Aquarius II over here, okay, the second decan of Aquarius. And I'll break these down in detail. I'm just giving you an overview right now. And it's co-present with Pluto. So we are coming off, and we're seeing an applying of Mercury opposing Pluto. So we're not going to back all the way into the perfection of that opposition between Mercury and Pluto, but we're going to be applying within 3 degrees. So some of those attempts to dive into the depths of our thoughts and to really uncover something that has been hidden might be part of this Aquarius full moon. Of course, as we were talking about earlier, it is hosted by a retrograde Saturn in its fall in Aries. It is sextile, but there will be some challenges with that, especially with Mars opposing Saturn and Neptune retrograde. So this is something that we'll talk about as we go forward as well. The good news is that Mars does trine Uranus, so we might be experimenting with some new things that might be more just in the world, more balanced with Mars in Libra as we move into this full moon. We may be feeling a little bit of imbalance, injustice, whether it's through observation of how things are going in our external worlds, politically, socially, etc., or within our personal lives where we might not have a healthy work-life balance or something like that. Maybe there are unbalanced relationships, and we're trying to figure out how to work through those issues as well. And we might have some innovative ideas with Mars trining Uranus at this full moon as well. And then the other thing that we have to talk about is Venus conjoining Jupiter. Venus is going to be within 3 degrees of Jupiter, preparing for the Venus-Jupiter conjunction at about 14 degrees of Cancer, which is Jupiter's maximum degree of exaltation, a place where Jupiter is very happy, has all the resources that it would desire to be able to bring about its significations. And in this case, it's bringing good fortune. It's bringing things like expansion. It's bringing order. It's bringing the ability to bring all the pieces together to achieve the goal and to create honor and merit through our own consciousness. And when Venus is conjoining with Jupiter, we are able to receive good fortune as well as create it through our consciousness. So we are open, we are receiving guidance from the universe, and that's helping us to take the right actions out in the world. So really one of the best aspects, I think, of the year. That's going to be perfecting on August 12th, but it's sort of baked into this full moon. Okay, so those are sort of the big picture thoughts that we have here. I'm going to check back in with our chat. Javier says, I felt the same. I'm starting to feel better. Oh, I'm glad, Javier, that you're starting to feel better. I think maybe with Jupiter being released from the malefic enclosure, we might be starting to see the return of some hope too, potentially. We've gotten Mercury going into that heart of the sun and sort of being renewed. So we're having some new ideas, really starting to figure out who we really are and how we want to show up for the world. But also that helps us to take actions out in the world that can lead to further expansion and good fortune. Stephen is here. What's up, Stephen? Good afternoon to you, Spencer. Stephen says, good afternoon. Right back at you, friend. Hope everything's going well. Javier says, this Venus-Jupiter conjunction around the time seems so interesting. Any insights with this and Mercury going direct? I'm assuming that was a comment that came a little while ago as I was waxing poetic about Venus and conjoining Jupiter. But, you know, I'll dive into that further in a minute. But I think if you think about it decanically, we're talking about the 3 of Cups with Venus and Jupiter together. This is the tarot card associated with the 2nd decan of Cancer. And the way that I think of that card is the way that Austin Coppock describes it as the walled garden, something where we're able to create a nurturing space by protecting something that's meaningful to us against the harsh outer world, against something that might threaten its growth. And then in that safe space, we're able to grow, and we're able to exchange. We're able to meet up with communities that we share belief systems with. We're able to learn from our family of origin. There are also significations of being tested by the family, like by Hera. Hera is one of the, Heracles is the daimon or spirit in that decan. And of course, Heracles, also known as Hercules, was tested by his mother, or his surrogate mother, and Hera. I guess it wasn't his literal mother, because Zeus, his father, kind of stepped out on him. And she drove Hercules towards madness. But then also through his labors, he learned the lesson of humility. So the learning from our past, learning from our familial relationships, learning from our community relationships with our friends, we might just have some really nice moments where we're meeting up with people that we care about and that we want to exchange emotional messages with and experiences with. So I think that's something that is really important moving forward. Yeah, Moon Pluto might be a little sticky. We'll get a little bit more in depth in that in a minute. Steven says, I have plenty of stacks of books around me. Good, Steven. That's the only way to be, right? I think I will say this, though, Steven. I'm trying to figure out Um, what should stay and what should go? Because I'm great at acquiring books. I'm not great at recycling them back into the world. And sometimes you start to run out of space. And they used to have these things called libraries where you would borrow the book and then return it, which they do still have. But I've gotten in the habit post pandemic of kind of creating my own library. And I think I might need to get back into the habit of recognizing that I can rent these from the library and then return them when I'm done. But there is something to having a nice book collection. Steven says, can I evict Mars out of my 10th house now? Well, it's coming, buddy. We're seeing Mars moving out of Virgo and into Libra as we're moving forward into this full moon. Oh, yeah, no worries. Javier says, very interesting. Thank you. Maybe a Chiron retrograde will help, potentially. We'll see. Sometimes we can understand some of our wounds and some of our teachings and some of our exchanges with Chiron. Karen says, Mars is still sitting on my natal Pluto in the 10th. Oh, my goodness. Karen, it's almost over, right? It's going to be moving out of that position pretty soon. That's one of the other beautiful things about astrology is not only do we know how to contextualize the challenges that we're going through, but also when it's going to be over and when we might be able to hang on until that energy starts to shift in a different direction. Strings of Apollo Astrology is here. Says, hello, Jeremy from Austin, Texas. Just found your channel recently and really love your approach. Really appreciate the long form deep dives. Thanks, bud. Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate you. Hope everything's going well down in one of the music cities there in Texas. Yeah, I've tried to do short form content, Jeremy. I'm too long-winded. I feel like part of my approach is to be as thorough as possible. And I feel almost an anxiety about leaving out specific details because the way that I approach life is not in an instant gratification, small bite culture. It is trying to contextualize things within a very holistic approach and seeing how everything interrelates and connects. And sometimes it takes time to make those connections. And if we have just 1 minute sound bites from that, we're not really getting the context. And to me, that I reject that, right? And it's really exciting to hear that there are people that really resonate with that because I think we're losing that. I have made some attempts to create some little sound bites to please the algorithm, so you might see some of those here and there. But hopefully what it does is lead people back to some of the long form content so we can get all the context. We can see the big picture. We can see how everything connects in this mycelial fashion. This is another project that I'm thinking of doing for the fall, is talking about how nature can mimic an astrological chart and how we can think about the chart as a mycelial network of connections. And these planets are fruiting bodies, right, that are the things that we see, but we have all these things going on underneath the surface that are connecting those things. So keep your eye out for that. But welcome, my friend. It's always nice to see new friends here. And thank you so much for joining us. And don't be shy about adding your wisdom into the chat. We kind of co-create on this channel. Steven says, same here. Mars needs to get off Pluto. Yeah. I imagine that's a difficult transit when people are having Mars conjoining a natal Pluto, probably bringing up a lot of difficult things to deal with from the depths, things that have been buried that may have fallen into corruption, not necessarily due to anyone's fault, but sometimes just through life where we press things down. And Mars is going to stir and churn all that stuff up, especially if Mars is on your natal Pluto and Virgo, probably stirring up some corruption within our systems, right? Within the challenges that we have with organizing our life. And oftentimes we have to change our systems. I'm having to learn this. Like the system that I've been doing for a long time hasn't left enough margin, right, to be able to do some of the other things that will lead to better mental, physical, and emotional health. And I'm trying to restore that back in with Mars in Virgo right now, conjoining the South Node. I think this is another thing that we're experiencing with Mars, Virgo, South Node, whether it's on your Pluto or not, is how do we do less? Like, I think that Mars in Virgo says, I got to do this. There's an anxiety about feeling like winter is coming and I need to preserve this against the ravages of time. Well, when the South Node is with something, it says, well, this is a reduction kind of energy. This is where we're reducing our ability of that planet And when the South Node's moving through Virgo, when we do less, when we schedule ourselves less, we can actually do more of higher quality because we have balance and rest in our life. So this is going to be a theme today that I'm going to keep talking about, because it's something I think a lot of us need to hear, because we feel like we have pressure to continue to do more, be more, to use more environmentally destructive tools so that we can be more productive. Well, eventually that's going to lead to burnout, not only of our personal nervous systems, but burnout of the resources of this beautiful planet that would have no problem giving in abundance and reciprocal relationships if we would only be good stewards and take care of her in the way that she attempts to take care of us. Javier says, I don't think you're long-winded at all. I love and value all your insight and wisdom. Oh, thank you, friend. Appreciate you. I love to hear that. You're making me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. That as a Leo rising, I do appreciate compliments. So thank you for that, friend. Javier says, nice sacred geometry. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's really a lot of what ancient astrology is all about, is the geometric patterns that we see in the sky, especially with aspect patterns. So there is all sorts of wonderful mathematics and sacred geometry built into astrology. And once we learn some of those shapes, right, that can give us some new insights into the nature of our lives and of the charts that we're looking at. Karen says, very true, and I would be excited, but then, okay, so we're talking about Mars, okay, moving from Virgo into Libra. Very true, I would be excited, but then it enters Libra in detriment and hits my poor moon, LOL. It's been a rough year. Pluto is squaring my Saturn-Jupiter opposition. Ride the waves of Neptune as well. Very true, Karen. Everything has to be somewhere. I think that is one thing I've learned about astrology, is that we have to take the good with the challenging. And I guess what I will say is that, yes, the Mars in Libra is going to be challenging, and hitting the moon, definitely difficult. But one of the things that I'm choosing to focus my attention on, and we're not spiritually bypassing the Mars challenge for sure, but we have some of the best astrology of the year with Venus conjoining Jupiter too. And one would say, well, wouldn't it be great if we didn't have the Mars-Saturn opposition? Wouldn't it be great if we could just enjoy that Venus-Jupiter conjunction without this other thing happening? I would counteract that with saying, man, can you imagine if we had to go through the Saturn-Mars opposition without the Venus-Jupiter conjunctioning happening? I mean, so there's all sorts of ways what we can kind of slowly shift perspective to say, you know what, this is all part of the divine plan, and it's all going to work out in the best possible way for our higher selves. The other thing I'll say too is some of the tension that we feel when we have difficult placements like Mars on Moon, sometimes that might lead to changes. That discomfort that we feel can lead to really important changes within our life that when we look back on it, we're like, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. I was living in a overstuffed life, or I had these habits that weren't working for me, and Mars came along and it removed all of that, and it liberated me to be able to make those changes that I'd been resisting. So, but I hear you though. I hear you that some of those things are painful, and we'll try to figure out ways to navigate them gracefully. Javier says, love it. I need to hear it 100 times. Good. Good. Oh man, happy that you're here, friend. Okay, let me check things. We've got some really nice comments here. We're gonna, one thing that we should do is we should have we should sort of have like a subscribers Q&A one of these days. I know that I would love to be able to spend all of our time today taking your questions, looking at your chart and breaking them each down. These are awesome comments. Please keep them coming. Yeah, appreciate you. I'm gonna have to, let's see. Oh, I love this. Great comments. But in the interest of time, I'm gonna go back to our chart here. So friends, full moon in Aquarius. Let's start by breaking down what the sun is doing. Now that may seem counterintuitive. You're like, well, this is a lunar broadcast, right? Not so fast, friends. When we have this full moon, this light is animating this lunar body, okay? So we have an intention, we have a conscious intention that we're trying to bring into the world through the lunar signification. So starting with the sun, I think, is sometimes the best thing to do. So here we go. We have a slide from my Decans of Leo. Okay. And I think that what we're going to do is we're going to just look at that a little bit, because we've moved into the second decan of Leo here. Here you see the 6 of Wands card associated with this decan, this 10-degree section, which runs from 10 degrees of Leo to 19 degrees and 59 minutes. Once we hit 20 degrees, we're in Leo 3. This has a decanic ruler, Jupiter. Okay, so we have the solar ruled temple, Leo, but its 10-degree section has like a secondary ruler, which in this case is the benefic, the greater benefic, Jupiter. Book T in the Book of Thoth call this the Lord of Victory. Austin Coppock calls it a crown of laurels, because we see someone returning back victorious from a successful endeavor, a successful battle, a successful whatever. And we are dealing with victory. And what do we do when we are successful? What kind of character are we going to express when we're having success? So sometimes success is as much a test of our character as the challenges and misfortune that we experience. So themes of victory parades, public honors, king for a day, a balanced heart, Tiferet, right? It's like Chad was telling me, like maybe I was pronouncing it wrong. Tiferet. I think that's how you pronounce it. A balanced heart. This is the Kabbalistic tree of life, where we have the solar Sephiroth, right, that is in the middle of the tree. So whenever we see the 6s in the tarot, we're talking about balance. We're talking about things that are helping us to bring equilibrium back into our life. Now with Leo 2, authenticity is one of the main themes here. We've talked about authenticity and defined it as the ability to have an external expression that matches with our internal true self. And we've been going through that and asking a lot of questions with that, with Mercury's retrograde cycle and its subsequent Cazimi. This can also be a decan that is searching for a sense of belonging and appreciation and validation. Just like Javier has been giving some beautiful compliments today. This is when we have placements in Leo, it feels really good. We feel like, oh, wow, okay. Like we have all these people that are joining us in the parade here. It feels victorious to feel that we're acknowledged and seen for our true selves and for the things that we're doing in a way that feels validating of who we are. So seeking that validation and recognition. Now that has its downside too. If we get too attached to seeking validation and recognition, that can lead to an inauthentic expression, because then what we're doing is we're trying to express ourselves specifically to gain the validation rather than being validated for who we really are. Do you see how there's a slight difference within that? Okay, like I had a musician friend, shout out to my friend Aaron out in Oregon. He's a wise soul who was teaching me about expressing versus impressing. And as a young Leo rising, I often fell into the mistake of trying to impress my audience as a musician, as a teacher, etc., rather than expressing who and what I felt. And that slight little twist really, I think, really helped me to express what I was feeling and let go of trying to do too much. You know, I was a big fan of a musician named Jeff Buckley. He has a wonderful documentary coming out on the full moon. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Well, anyway, if you search Jeff Buckley documentary, it's coming out in like little independent theaters. I highly recommend learning about his story. He's a really interesting musician soul. But when I was learning through trying to, I don't know, embrace his method, right? Trying to learn his songs, sometimes I would go a little bit too far. I would do a little bit too much ornamentation. I would try to sound just like him, which oftentimes mimicry is something that helps us to learn how to do things. But what made him so special is he was being just unabashedly himself. And he was trying to live in that moment and express what was going on in the moment. I believe he has a Leo 2 ascendant. And once that realization started to flip for me, I could truly embody that spirit of Jeff Buckley by being able to just be myself. I didn't have to be Jeff Buckley. I could just be what I was feeling in that moment. And that's the difference between trying to impress versus trying to express who we are. And I think that's a really important theme when we talk about Leo 2. So questions you can ask yourself related to the solar part of this full moon, the light that is trying to find expression in a body. What or who do you want to be celebrated for? Who are you? So we have to ask ourselves, who are we really? You need to know that before you can be validated for it, right? And it's not always easy to know who we are, especially when who we are doesn't match with the society that we were born into. I've often felt an enormous disconnect with the society that I was born into, the Midwest of the United States, late stage capitalism, whatever it is. As a 12th house sun, my pace is very different than the pace of modern civilization. Sometimes I want to be visible, but sometimes I very much do not want to be visible. And with the way that we are being pushed into showing up online, sometimes that can make us feel really disconnected and uncomfortable. So who do you truly want to be? And how can you be exactly yourself, even if the society that you're in doesn't exalt those specific qualities? I do believe that you can find your support system. You can find your niche. You can find your community. And that comes through being yourself. How can you share and uplift others through your success? This is what we was talking about, that sometimes the test of our character is when we become successful. How do you treat people when you're successful and powerful, rather than when you are in need and experiencing times of lack or weakness? Really important. Sometimes people are really nice when they're at the bottom of the wheel of fortune, and they turn into the worst people imaginable when they're at the top. And here's some some 12th house sun wisdom. When we let our egos get too puffed up at success, that wheel starts to spin. If our egos get too heavy, that wheel starts to tip, and then you find yourself falling to the bottom of the wheel very quickly. Because when we lord our success over others and we hoard success and power, that's when we initiate the forces that want to take it away from us. So sometimes we can maintain our dignity and maintain our authenticity through being kind to others and sharing that victory with others. This card is not showing one individual. It's showing a parade, a sharing of that success with others. How can you make the work more important than your ego? Extremely important. I've always talked about this in my songwriting classes that I was teaching when I was teaching it. I taught at a community college for many years, songwriting class, a whole Jupiter cycle, actually. It was interesting when that shifted over. But I talk about how can you make the song more important than the artist itself, right? Does your line fit within what the song wants to express? That's hard. That's hard sometimes, because it requires us to be very ruthless with some of the things that we create. We may have the best, most poetic line, but if it doesn't fit within the context of the song, then it needs to go. And that was a hard concept to learn as a young musician and as someone who myself and as a teacher. But same thing with chords. Like if we had a chord that just didn't fit, if it didn't add to the story and the vibe of the song, it had to go. If you have too many notes that don't add, you might be very impressive with all of the fast solos that you can play or the runs with your voice. But if it doesn't fit the emotion that you're trying to express, it's just excess, and it takes away from the whole rather than adds to it. So how can you make the work more important than your ego? Can you view yourself as a channel rather than the source? Another important one, and one that we talked about a little bit when we talk about Liz Green and her story of Percival, talking about Leo. And that brings us back to this question, whom does the Grail serve? And where does your character still need cultivation? Percival was seeking the Holy Grail, went on a quest, came into contact with someone that was in dire need of empathy, but asked the wrong question, one that was still rooted in his youthful inexperience and maybe some of his nascent narcissism, right? And he had to go through and he had to go back to the beginning of his quest and come back and ask the right questions. And he had to ask the questions through empathy. Who does the Grail serve? Why do you seek power? Do you seek power just for your own glorification, or do you seek it to uplift others within your community and to contribute something to the divine plan, or whatever it is in your community, however you want to view that? So those are important questions. Is if you are seeking power, resources, That if you're seeking the top of the wheel fortune only for self-serving purposes, that is going to lead to your downfall much quicker because it is going to be imbalanced. Okay, I'm going to check in with our chat here. We've got a bunch of nice comments coming in. Let's see what we got. What are you all saying here? Let's see. Darkness before the light, Javiera says. Yes, absolutely. She's been seeing meditations and shapes in her dreams. Ooh, those are cool dreams, right? You're tapping into the divine language of mathematics and geometric shapes. Winged Star is here. How you doing, Winged Star? How you doing? Nice to see you, friend. Winged Star says, yay, I share that sentiment. KP says, the juxtaposition of these transits is fascinating, pushing all the chips in on Venus and Jupiter. Hopefully it offsets the Mars. It might. I think that I think we have the ability to enjoy the Venus-Jupiter transits of our lives while still appreciating the difficulty of the Mars transits. And I don't even think we need to necessarily offset anything. I think we can just say one part of our life might be really amazing. Another part might be difficult. And we have to carve out time for both of those things. That's where we seek the balance in our life. The good news, though, Karen, is that Mars in Libra is hosted by Venus that is going to be in that Venus-Jupiter conjunction relationship. So, if we look at our chart again here, oops. So you could see that like Venus is going to be hosting Mars, and Venus is in the overcoming position. So that would actually lead to some of the offsetting energy, I think, that you're talking about, because Venus is in the pole position, so to speak. So Venus is helping smooth out some of those challenges. Although Venus is also having her own challenges with Mars in the overcoming position. So 6 to 1, half a dozen to another. Chad's got it. Tiferet. Am I getting it? Like county fair? Tiferet. All right. I always tell everyone, if I'm pronouncing something wrong, please correct me, because I want to be linguistically correct. Emphasis on the second syllable, Chad says. Tiferet. Okay. Got it. I hope I got it. Thanks, buddy. Javier says, how come fire signs are assigned to wands? Let me think about that. That's a good question. Well, all of the different elemental energies are assigned to a different suit within the tarot. We've got of course, the wands are fire, the cups are water, the swords are air, and the pentacles are earth. I think I would have to sit with that question a little bit. I do think that they think of wands as sort of this spirit fire, this almost like this ether type of experience, something that is representing passion, something that is representing energy that is contagious. If we think about what fire might represent, it is a consuming energy, right? It's an energy that wants to, like enthusiasm, it wants to catch something. But it can also burn it up. If we get too close to the flame, it can be painful. So I would think all of those types of experiences might be baked into the wands within the tarot. I do have a talk with the stars and cards talk with the tarot and astrology. There might be some more insights within that. I can also recommend some resources. I really love Tarot Deciphered by Susie Chang and M.M. Moline, Tarot Correspondences by Susie Chang. All of Rachel Pollack's work is very good. 36 Secrets, 36 Faces. Yeah, those are good places to start. And then we can see if we can unpack all of that. Wingstar, so I think maybe because fire transforms stuff. Interesting. I like that idea. Absolutely. Yeah, it can change something from one form to another. Javier says, I see, you can burn a wand, but not a sword. Oh, okay. I like that. All right. Let's see. Wingstar says, I'm just an amateur. We've got lots of 12th and 8th house energy. Hey, well, you're in the right spot. This is a very 12th house place, my friend. We're taking things slow. We're trying to come into alignment with liminal spaces, which I associate with the 12th house, the space in between the living and the spirit world. We're just trying to navigate that together, friend. Javier says, so interesting how you bring up being being unfamiliar in a space. Never thought about those past insecurities or feeling that sense of non-belonging. Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt that as a young person who was very sensitive, right? Sensitive to my environment. I grew up in various places in the Midwest of the United States, and in Illinois, in Michigan, places where uh, a sensitive, artistic young boy was sometimes picked on for being sensitive, for expressing his feelings, for uh, having hopefully a healthy balance between masculine and feminine energies. And I didn't always fit in. I played a lot of sports as a young person. I really enjoyed sports, to be honest with you, but there's definitely some toxic masculinity, especially growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, around those spaces. Those things are expressed, and it took a lot of hard lessons to navigate all that. But yeah, but here we are. Now we have this community that we're building together that feels much more in alignment with, I think, possibly our true selves. Steven says he has a lot of 12th house energy too. Jupiter and Scorpio there. That's a interesting planet to have in the 12th house for sure. Javier says, my cat's name was Percival. Had him for 17 years. Well, that's a good run. Hoping to have fun. Hoping he's having fun in the cosmos. Oh, I hope so too. Wishing you well in the spirit world, little Percival. Strings of Apollo says, and this is only round 1 of Jupiter and Venus in Cancer. Preview or initiation maybe for next year. Ooh, I like that. That's good news, right? That we're going to have this coming back again next year. So take notes. And if you aren't able to take all of the advantage that you can this time around, you'll probably have another opportunity. So try to be open to receive what wants to come, and let's not push ourselves too hard during these times, right? Javier says, just fire makes me think of swords and air wands. I don't know. That's how I see it. Another interesting source, Javier, you can look into is the Golden Dawn. I think that a lot of the associations that we associate elementally come from the Golden Dawn, which is like a sort of like a secret society that was starting to connect and syncretize all of these different things with symbols like the tarot. There's also another book by Aleister Crowley, the Book of Thoth, that talks about a slightly different set of associations. Those are great resources as well. But yeah, all sorts of ways to think about things. And here's the thing. I think that we have an attachment to things being systemized the correct way. And I have been very attached to that at various points in my life, being a Virgo stellium. But then there's also been times where I've had a lot of humbling, where I've learned that the divine can speak through different channels that don't necessarily match up with how it's either always been done or with how someone says it should be. So one of the things that I can suggest is that if you feel a sense of truth and realization through different associations, I don't think that it's necessarily completely out of alignment to follow those instincts. I tend to believe that the universe is going to entrain itself to us, and by sort of like thinking of our brains as radio receivers, and we're tuning into all of these signals, or the essences are floating around in the air. But when we learn a system, we're tuning into the radio station that clarifies those so that we can receive them and communicate them clearer. Sometimes it helps to have a shared language that we can speak with other people. Other times we have things that are we only use personally, and that's okay. Because I think that there are so many different ways that the divine can communicate to us and through different systems, that when we get so attached to form, sometimes we can miss out on the essence. So I do believe that it's important to continue to build on traditions that have come before us, but I think also there are times when we need to, figure out what works for us. Yeah, no problem. Javier says, I'm also sensitive. Nicaraguan immigrant in Canada during the 80s and 90s, was very new to navigate. Oh my goodness, Javier. Yeah, I wasn't necessarily an immigrant or someone who was out of my own country, and so I can imagine how disorientating that can be. But I will say that I can understand some of those feelings, maybe on my own little small level, as being someone who went between households a lot, like whose parents were divorced, and I had a lot of step parents growing up, and there was always a new environment that I had to navigate, that where the rules were always changing. Every few years my parents would marry somebody new and then get divorced or whatever, and I had to learn a whole new set of systems, a whole new set of expectations. So I hope that I understand that a little bit, but I can only imagine the challenges with that. So hopefully you're feeling like you're belonging wherever you're at this point, and that you're being supported. Javier says, I always tell my family and friends about your channel and how I feel a true sense of belonging. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, you're welcome here, friend. And that is a great gift to give the channel, is sharing by word of mouth and bringing new people in here, as far as like helping other people to feel seen and heard as well. So that's a great gift that you're giving, not only to those folks, but to the channel as well. So thank you for that, friend. Let's see. Kate is here. What's up, Kate? Kate says, holding on to the fact that malefic opposition doesn't make any real aspect to this lunation. Yeah, that is a good point. It's not going to be, we're not going to be seeing a square or like a opposition from Mars or Saturn within the chart. That's good. We also don't see an aspect from a benefic planet, which is also challenging, but maybe it's a little bit more of a neutral energy. Yeah. Javier says, that's rough. At least we are here now. Exactly. Karen says, y'all are making me feel more positive with these insights. I too have Jupiter in Scorpio. It is my ascendant ruler. Astrology is a guiding light. Stephen might be your star twin. There we go. That's fun. I like that we're finding these new connections. All right. Okay, we'll do a little housekeeping here. Okay. All right, friends. So let's go back to our breakdown. And let's talk about okay, the sun is in its own domicile. So we don't have the sun being hosted by any other planet, right? It's in its own temple. It has its own resources. Very powerful position for the sun. Let's start talking about this moon in Aquarius. So here we have the moon hanging out in Aquarius II. It's co-present with Pluto. There is an overcoming trine by whole sign from Mars. It's also trining Uranus by whole sign. And this is a place of transition. So I'm going to bring Aquarius II to our chart here so we can kind of break that down. And you can find these slides together with the Decans of Aquarius webinar on my website at the store. So I hope that you'll be able to check that out. Here we have the the Six of Swords associated with Aquarius II. So this is a place of moving from one shore to another, of liminal spaces. We talked about the liminal spaces of the 12th house between physical experience and spirit, right? Liminal spaces can be anywhere where we're in between. Here we see someone being ferried across a river, across a lake, an ocean, etc. A lot of the Aquarian themes have to do with immigration, of leaving one place to go to another, into a feeling of exile sometimes. So here we have a Saturn-ruled sign, but a Mercury-ruled decan. And of course, Mercury is the ultimate means of exchange. It is the ultimate commerce planet, right? So we're building bridges between worlds in Aquarius too. We're navigating these liminal spaces. We have Tiferet in Yetzirah, which is the intellectual reaching towards beauty. Another Tiferet, another Tiferet. Sorry, chat. Okay, I know it probably bugs you. We're harmonizing the ideal and the practical. Okay, we're exchanging ideas. Sometimes this can lead to a little bit of fear of change, though, in this decan. There's a spirit in Aquarius 2 called Phobos, and Phobos was one of the children of Mars. And Phobos was sort of the energy of route from battle, which basically is the retreating when you feel like you're overwhelmed or overrun, and you're like, all right, I'm not going to hold my ground anymore. I need to move on, right? I need to run in the opposite direction. So there may be a feeling of wanting to run away from something at the Aquarius full moon. We may be feeling that to be our most authentic self, our Leo 2 sun self, we need to move on from something that is not us, that we don't resonate with, that we don't agree with. So this is one of the things where we have to be really careful about balancing out sort of this homecoming energy of Leo 2, this being validated for who we are, but the necessity to move on, to communicate from the center and the fringe. We have sort of a fringe community here. This isn't necessarily the type of thing that is most understood by quote unquote normal society, but we still have to kind of live within this world and communicate sometimes with central powers and central forces. So this exchange of ideas, this exchange of energy between the center and the peripheral is something that's associated with Aquarius II. So questions you can ask yourself about this moon phase in particular. What rivers do you need to cross? There is all sorts of different ferrymen that are associated with this decan, right? One wish we have Urshanabi, I think that's how you pronounce it. Sorry, we're pronouncing things. Urshanabi was the ferryman who pilots a small boat across the waters of death to a faraway place where Utapishtim lives. This is from the Epic of Gilgamesh. He loses his privilege when he accepts Gilgamesh as a passenger, so he has to return with him to Uruk, right? So this is one of the ferrymen. We also have Charon, the ferryman of the dead, who takes souls from the land of the living to the underworld, also a ferryman. So transiting one place or state to another, right? And I don't mean like a physical state, I mean like a state of being, right? So how can you move safely from point A to point B? Sometimes when we're in transition and when we're traveling, we're vulnerable because we don't necessarily have a solid ground to stand on. So there could be a feeling of vulnerability at this full moon because we're transitioning from one phase to the next. Is there a guide that you can summon? This is another benefit of this decan, is that we can be guided from one place to the next by that ferryman type guide. What preparations need to be made for a fresh start? This full moon, it doesn't always happen necessarily in the second decan of Aquarius, but this time of year, we're starting to feel the end of summer coming, right? The end of the period where we're not in school, our kids aren't in school if we have them, we're not going to college or things like that. And we're starting to feel like, oh man, we're gonna have to go back to this different type of being, this new schedule, that maybe a new class or something like that. And we're starting to make preparations for that transition. I know for me around this time of year, I'm kind of starting to think about what offerings I want to do for the fall and designing and promoting those things. And how do I transition from one series to another? How can you organize your journey and overcome your fear of change? This is tough too, especially when we've had success doing something the way that we've always done it. We worry sometimes that if we change the way we're doing something, it's going to not work out the way that we hope, right? So sometimes we have to kind of just, be brave, have the Leo courage, and move on from one place to the next. And then finally, how can you be in the world but not of it? Like, let's say you have Aquarius II moon in your natal chart. You may feel like you don't belong in any one place, but by not belonging in any one place, you can be a citizen of the world. And that might be the energy that we're experiencing here too, is that we might not feel like we belong to any one particular ideal, any one particular group or system, but because of that freedom, that objectivity, that allows us to move within different groups, within different spaces, right? Just like Hermes can move between different worlds, he can move between Olympus, the physical, tangible world, and the underworld. We also have a fixed star in this decan that the moon is going to be applying to called Sualosin. So I'll show you that real quick. So here is Sualosin in the Dolphin constellation. So this one is probably one of the most fortunate fixed stars in Aquarius. So this is has to do with playfulness, humor, intelligence, natural talent. When we're utilizing our ability to satire and parody something, I think humor is a really important vehicle for change, and we've seen that in the past few weeks, especially with programs like South Park parodying authoritarian leadership, and the way that can disempower some of those things and return power back and peace of mind back to people is really important. So I think that this is a full moon where leaning into humor, like allowing ourselves to lighten up a little bit, allowing ourselves to see the good in things rather than get overwhelmed by all the challenging things around us. That doesn't mean we ignore the suffering in the world, but sometimes we have to take, if we have the privilege to do so, sometimes we have to take time to recharge our battery to understand what we're actually fighting for and advocating for. If we lose touch with our humor, with our peace, with what we are actually trying to achieve, then life becomes very sad, very difficult, and it can be hard to do the hard work necessary to advocate for those who don't have that privilege if we haven't paced ourselves for the journey ahead. And sometimes having a little bit of humor, having a little bit of lightheartedness can help us pace us through some of the more difficult and heavy lifting that we have to do for each other. So that's Sualosin. Let's bring this chart back up here. What do you say? All right, so let me see. Where are we at here? Let me check back in with the chat. And as I'm doing that, do me a favor, friends. Take a little stretch break. All right, stretch break. While we're doing that, please like the video if you can. That's the easiest thing you can do to be in reciprocity with our gift economy that we have here, is liking the video, subscribing, telling a friend. If you want to donate today on YouTube, you can through the little super chat. If you want to go to buy me a coffee, either now or after the fact, that's a great way to help me keep the lights on and keep me doing this work within this exploitive system that I really struggle with, to be 100% honest with you. But there are so many people that are generous in this community, and any type of contribution that you can make, whether it's through commenting, liking, subscribing, telling a friend, all of those things are valuable for the channel, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much. Even just being here today, your attention is a valuable commodity. And it's so rare for us to spend this amount of time connecting with anybody, right, in our worlds. And the fact that many of you stay for our entire broadcast is such a gift. So thank you so much for that. All right, so let me check in with our chat here. All right. What do we got? What do we got going on here, friends? We have some we've got a lot of conversations going on. I love it. Let's see. I'm behind. So if I'm looking at these, I'm probably behind by a few minutes. All right, we've got the Percival the cat. Let's see. We've got our discussions about feeling out of place. Let's see. Kate says, this will be on my 17-degree Leo ascendant and 18-degree sun in Aquarius. By holding on, I mean desperately grasping. Oh, Kate. Hang in there, Kate. Hopefully there will be some relief. Take a look at the Jupiter-Venus conjunction, and especially happening in the 12th house. Don't be afraid, as a fellow Leo ascendant, to take a time out, to clear your schedule if you can, to add some space back into your life. Don't feel like you have to do to be valuable. Like, just be. I think that would be my best advice for that Venus-Jupiter conjunction in the 12th house. We're allowed to just be. We're valuable just for who we are, not because of what we're doing or what we're contributing or whatever. Just by being, I think that we can find joy within that and value. All right, so let's see. All right, some really good conversations going on here. So thank you so much for all of you supporting each other within the chat. I love it, you know? I love that. Javier says, my calves hurt. Thanks for the stretch. I have to work on my hips. You know, I've got this new chair. It's not really new, but it's a chair that is sort of it combines like an exercise ball and a regular chair, and it helps me to move my hips around. So I love it. Kate says, your time is a valuable commodity, Spencer. Very grateful for your dedication. Thank you, Kate. Appreciate you. It's a labor of love. You know, it's a labor of love. Thank you, friends. Thank you, friends. Kate says, I'll be under anesthesia the day before the moon is full, so praying for Jupiter to be my guardian angel. You know, with Venus and Jupiter coming together around that period of time, I think that might be a little bit of a guardian angel, right? Maybe your dreams will be very poignant. Maybe when you're going under the anesthesia, there'll be some just beautiful experiences. I started watching Sandman again, the second season of Sandman. I know there's some controversy with the author of that book, but the visuals within the television series are really beautiful, and they talk about the dream world a lot and the liminal spaces. So there is some really beautiful visions that we can have when we're inhabiting other worlds. Okay, so let's talk about how this is going to unfold. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of an insight into how we might be seeing this experience unfolding over the next few weeks. So the first thing that we see leading up to this, so let's clear this off here, and I'm going to bring two charts, and we're going to go to the full moon, and we're going to see the full moon on the inner ring, and we're going to have how it is unfolding on the outer ring. Okay, so this will show you how everything's moving and the themes that are going to be perfecting around that. So the 10th, the day after, right, we have Mars making a trine to Pluto. So here's the Mars trine Pluto, and we are going to be seeing this right here and Pluto right here. So some of the realizations that we have, we are talking about Mars-Uranus trine during the full moon itself, or shortly before it. But that might bring some unearthing. That might bring some things that are helping us to realize some things that we've repressed. So when Mars trines Pluto, we have Mars moving through the first decan of Libra, which brings up some feelings of inequality. It brings up some feelings of righteous indignation, righteous anger. There's a spirit in this decan called the Uranes, and the Uranes were these monsters that were prayed to by people in ancient Greek civilization to punish people who had gotten away with a crime. So I think once Mars moves into Libra 1, there might be some real anger and frustration with an injustice that we're seeing in our world. And there's plenty of them to go around right now. I don't have to list all of them, but you can just open up your news app or look at the news and see all the injustices happening in the world right now. And we may be seeing this in our own lives too, an imbalance in our own lives that we feel frustrated with in our personal lives that reflects some of the challenges in the external world. So when we have this kind of trine with Pluto, we might be able to take that righteous indignation and band together with our communities to transform, to heal, hopefully, some of the imbalances. But that might take a lot of courage. It might take a lot of acknowledging that things are not as pretty or perfect as all the propaganda tries to present it as. And it may really unearth some really difficult feelings, but that can lead to positive change. So Mars trining Pluto so Mars from Libra 1 is going to be trining Pluto to Aquarius 1 on the 10th. So the first aspect that perfects. Now, the first aspect that the moon makes is going to be on the 11th. So let's move to the 11th. And this is the first aspect the moon makes when it is escaping from the bond. That is sort of a condition where we see the moon moving outside of the 15-degree connection with either the conjunction with the sun or the opposition with the sun. And ancient astrologers believe that since the moon often represents a manifestation vehicle, that manifestation is sort of held in check when it's in the bond, when it's within that 15-degree connection on either side of the sun. So the first aspect that we have is a trine with Venus at about 12 degrees of Pisces. So let's move the chart back to 12 degrees, where the moon is at 12 degrees of Pisces. Okay. And that's a trine with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. So to me, that's really good news for this full moon. This really helps us to understand that, hey, there's some really good things in life if we visualize what is possible. The moon in the second decan of Pisces says, hey, how do we start to work with this liminal space of creation and bring things from the spirit world into the physical world through prayer, through the ability to visualize, and then to surrender, right? That's one of the gifts of Piscean energy is having an intention and then surrendering the method to the divine forces. So there might be something where we have to learn to open up and surrender to what the divine wants to move us towards. And it could be leading us towards a feeling of community, a feeling of belonging, as it makes a trine with Venus and Jupiter. That also coincides with Mercury stationing direct. So later in the day, if we go forward a few hours, you could see Mercury here stationing direct in Leo. All right. So Mercury is emerging from the beams and stationing direct within a few days of each other. And a lot of the work that we've been doing to craft a more representational identity that is in alignment with our true selves, our true feelings, our true belief systems, is probably going to start seeing some visible results around this period of time. So when we're asking questions, this is a mercurial signification. Mercury likes to cast doubt on things. It likes to ask questions. And during this Mercury retrograde period in Leo, it says, who are we? Who do we want to be? How do we show up in the world? How do we deal with our visibility? Are we comfortable with that? Are we comfortable with who we are and what we represent? And we might start to feel a little bit more comfortable with who we are as Mercury starts to move direct. We might get some answers to who we are. Maybe we don't like how we're showing up for the world, and we can start to make some changes as well. That information can be very valuable. If you don't like how you're showing up for your world, your community, if it's not an accurate representation of who you are on the inside, you always have the choice to change your expression. If you've let your overload and your overwhelm turn you into something that you don't want to be, you have the opportunity to maybe pull back and start to come back into alignment with who you want to be and what you want to put out into the world. I know for me, when I'm overwhelmed, when I'm overloaded, some of my grace and kindness can short circuit. And a lot of us become kind of jerks and assholes when we're feeling stress. And I know that if I'm taking enough time to give myself space to have the rest and the solitude that I need to think my thoughts, to connect with spirit, to not feel like I'm rushing around all the time, it's so much easier for me to tap into the part of myself that can express kindness, generosity, and empathy. And this space to me is extremely, extremely important. Same thing with like having enough time to eat, to rest, to sleep. We're all better off when we take care of our bodies and we leave a little bit of that space so that we're not filling up every second of the day with something. And the same is true for our environments. There is a real truth to the life-changing magic of tidying your space, as Marie Kondo would say. When you have a space that allows for movement, that allows for the future, right? That allows for new things to come into your life that are representational of who you are in this moment, not who you were in the past. That can lead to some really beautiful manifestations as well. But think of it, if your space is all cluttered up, if you have a whole bunch of things that are either broken or don't represent who you are in the moment, that can weigh on us, right? And I believe as above, so below, as within, so without. So when we clear that external space, we're clearing out space internally and rewiring our brains through doing so. It's so powerful. So this Mercury stationing direct could be a powerful moment for rewiring our brains as far as how we show up for the world, how we want to present ourselves. Maybe we realize something that we need to cut out of our lives to return back to our authenticity. That brings us to our beautiful Venus-Jupiter conjunction on the 12th that we've been talking about. So let's look at that. And here we have August the 12th, Venus conjoining Jupiter, 14 degrees. I'm going to make it blue because I just think that that looks nice, and it's not red, it's blue. It's nice and calm, right? This is probably one of the best aspects for the entire year, not just for the month ahead, but for the entire year. Jupiter is in its exaltation, which is a place that is said to be at the top of the Wheel of Fortune. It's a place where it has all the resources it needs to support healthy growth and nurturing. It's in a decan that talks about meeting up with good friends and enjoying ourselves. Maybe this is a time to meet up with some friends, some family, to show up for your community, to figure out what you can bring to your neighbors and to your community, instead of saying, well, I wish I would be invited to a party around this time or something. Say, well, how about we organize an event where we can share our generosity, we can share our abundance with others? How about we become the vehicles for that in our communities? I know that I've been working really hard to become a better neighbor in the last few years. As somebody who has in the past been a little territorial, partially because of my trauma growing up, of always being shuffled from one place to the next and never having space that was truly mine. I was always in a room that just was like a spare room or something. And I think that that led to some real territorialism as a young adult and into my mid-adulthood. And I've been working really hard to soften that and to connect with my neighbors rather than to be just angry every time any of them minorly inconveniences me with noise or something like that. And it's a humbling experience. And I've learned that a lot of people are sad, lonely, and would love just a conversation, an ear to bend, so to speak. I have a wonderful neighbor that I've been connecting with, and he's very handy, and he's been giving me a lot of great advice about how to fix things. And I think our deal is that he just needs someone to talk to. He's like, sorry for bending your ear. I'm like, nope, that's our deal. Like that's our reciprocal exchange. You give me advice about how to fix things because you know about those things, and I will be an ear to listen. And those types of reciprocal relationships are so valuable. I've started bringing with me a bag of dog, like little milk bones, so I can meet the little dogs that I meet in the neighborhood. My partner and I don't have a dog, so but we love to walk. So a lot of the times the people that we meet are dog walkers. And I was wanting to connect more with not only the dogs, but with their owners. And I think one of the greatest things that you can do is just do it through generosity. So how can you be an initiator of that good fortune rather than feeling like, oh, well, good fortune is going to find me? How do you initiate it through your actions and then be open to receive what comes to you? And it might come to you in a different form than you were expecting. One of the things, the greatest humilities that we can do in the world is when we pray for assistance, is be open to the form that it wants to meet us with. Oftentimes we dictate what type of form that good fortune is going to come to us. Well, I think with this placement in the sign of Cancer, the lunar ruled sign of Cancer, we have to, maybe we make an intention, maybe we initiate, but then we have to be open to receive good fortune in whatever form it comes to us. It may look very different than we were expecting. So be open to what the universe wants to show you. Maybe this is a good day to say yes when you normally say no. Maybe this is a good day to bring your neighbor, I don't know, some muffins or something like that. Bring your neighborhood dog a treat, whatever it might be. My neighbor has been sharing some things with his garden. He brings us these big zucchinis, and we're going to make zucchini bread, and we'll have this reciprocal relationship of, he grew the zucchinis, and now we're going to break the bread, and everybody benefits from that. So those types of relationships are the way that communities used to operate. And I think that going back to some of those ways, without romanticizing everything that happened in the past. Like this is what I love about this book, Margin, is that it's acknowledging that some parts of progress are important, that we don't want to overly nostalgize. Is that a word? We don't want to look back and with eyes that don't acknowledge some of the real challenges that we faced in the past. But he does make a lot of great points about how we had more space at various points. Even if we had a lot more physical labor that we were doing, there's all sorts of ways that your mind can be connected to spirit when you're doing physical labor that's much harder to do when we're doing all of this mental work that we're doing in front of our computers and our phones all day long. I get really exhausted sitting at my computer too long, and I don't necessarily get as tired when I'm doing some physical labor. It's really an interesting paradox. My body does, but my spirit doesn't as much, and my brain doesn't get as tired. And actually, it strengthens me, right? Rather than eventually that work can strengthen your body. And yes, you can exercise your mind as a muscle, but I do think that it's easier to burn that muscle out, especially with the pace and the rapidity of information that we have to process on a daily basis. So encourage you to enjoy that day. It's clear schedule. Maybe you initiate some nice fortune, but maybe just create some space for yourself, and then let the universe guide you to what it wants to give you at that. And don't be so fixated on what form it comes in, because it might surprise you. Okay, we got some good comments coming in. Let's see. I'm going to read through the comments real here. So Kate, we're all rooting for you. Hope everything goes well with your surgery, and hope that you have your guardian angels with you. Lauren is here. What's up, Lauren? Says I recently had to confront some childhood dental anxiety. I'd used music to help calm my nerves before and during the procedure. Trigger Protection, a song by Jen Aiko did the trick. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Lauren always has really good music recommendations, so I highly recommend taking her advice on that. Safe by Claire Mitchell, remixed by John Pattern, is also a great one. Nice. All right. Okay, good. All right. Let's see. Ani is here. What's up, Ani? Says, what a good time to tune in. Such a lovely benefic conjunction. What about, watch out for that afflicted moon, though, until it moves past Aries. I'm already feeling the love with Venus's ingress into Cancer. Yep, there's always going to be stuff, there's always going to be challenges. I think that, again, when I see things that are happening simultaneously, things that we could subjectively consider negative, like the square with the moon and the moon conjoining Saturn, I always start to think about how grateful I am that the benefic thing is happening at the same time to soften any of the challenges of the negativity. So just a little perspective shift that's been helping me not get so afraid of some of the difficult stuff. Let's see. Kate says, you're so nice. I know it may seem like a simple thing, but I know you just searched for me. Oh, yes, that's directed towards Lauren, and you are nice, Lauren. Ani says, P.S. I scheduled my dog's surgery the next day right after the moon is separating from the malefics. That's good. You don't want a malefic moon applying during a surgery, so that's good to be able to use astrology to pick a fortuitous time. I like that. We'll talk about the 13th in a minute here. Kate says, often these challenges, the pain and reliance on others, it's been described in the stars. You can't always avoid the surgeon's schedule. Ani says, when the moon moves into Taurus, this benefic conjunction is going to be super sweet because it will be enclosing the moon. Ooh, I like that. That's juicy. We'll take a look at that in a second too, Ani, but good catch. Kate says, although there's challenge, the moon is losing light. The moon losing light does show decreasing physical symptoms. Okay. Strings of Apollo says, I'm really curious about 4 degrees Leo. Jupiter there next year locking in with the outer planets. Mercury stationing there at this full moon seems important. You often see this in astrological transits, is there will be some important degree that gets activated by multiple things in multiple cycles. I would say that just my understanding of that area of the zodiac, I associate it with the 5 of Wands, and we can often see either a competitive situation, something where it feels like an important battle, but it's not as serious as it may appear at first. There is themes of mask making in that decan, putting on different personas to try out things that are in an attempt to find our authentic self. So I think that there's a lot of things where we're going to be seeing attempts to try on new personas, but with the opposition with Pluto, the personas are needing to go through some change, because the roles that we've fulfilled in the past were based on conditions that either are changing or never existed. And we're starting to wake up from some of those things. We're starting to understand that the needs that we have as a society are changing, and the roles that we play are going to have to change because of the challenges of things like climate change, because of the challenges of changing monetary systems and wealth inequalities, because of the changing need of finding housing for people. We have to play different roles within our lives and within our society. So I think that to me is what that specific area is speaking towards, is who do we want to be as an individual, and how is that role going to serve the collective, right? Because if it's a self-serving role, Pluto is just going to, blow that up, blow that hubris up, right? It's going to say, oh, you're going to play a self-serving role. Oh, you're in the billionaire class, and you're going to take more than is your share and make everyone else suffer. Oh, you're going to take more power than anyone ever needs as an authoritarian ruler. Well, Pluto is going to lay that to waste. And in our own lives, like if we're making choices that are selfish, that are not in service of our communities and our collective and our planet, that also is going to be exposed as corruption. So I think that's part of the challenge there. All right. Ooh, we've got some good music recommendations coming through the chat. Mama Saturn by Tannerell. Oh, nice. I love that. Sending that to Lauren. Ani says, Mercury is also improving its condition as morning star. I agree that even with the Mars-Saturn opposition, keep the malefics off the angles and you'll have a good time for sure. Yep, I agree. Let's see. Kate says, thank you, Apollo. An interesting note as I'm navigating speech and appearances in this time. Yes, Apollo is trying to help us with our strings of Apollo. Yes. Okay. Ani says, best health to you and your surgery, Kate. I rescheduled my dogs 3 times. Good Mercury retrograde fashion. Okay. Oh, Strings, thank you so much for the super chat today, friend. Appreciate you. Thank you for supporting the channel. I know that it's we all have kind of a limited resource pool potentially as we learn to understand our limits of this world, but being able to share is I'm so grateful for you and you being here and not only sharing your resources with us, but your wisdom. So thank you so much for that today, friend. Okay, so that's our Venus conjunct Jupiter, one of the most positive aspects of the year. To summarize, be both the initiator of someone's good fortune on that day and be open to the good fortune that comes to you. So let's talk about the last quarter moon a little bit. We're going to move forward here to the last quarter moon on the 15th. Now, we had some people in the chat talking about how when we get to the moon in Taurus, right, which is the 15th through the 14th through the 15th, we're going to have this kind of really nice exalted moon hosting the Venus and Jupiter kind of separating conjunction, but both the benefics are going to be hosted by an exalted moon. So I do think that there's going to be some really nice energy after we get out of the Aries moon and into the Taurus moon. So the time between the 14th and the 15th could be really productive. The only challenge that I'm seeing here is we do have a square between the moon and the sun that manifests towards the end of Friday, right? So this is Friday the 15th. Okay, we're going to see the moon starting to square the sun. Oftentimes what we see when the moon is in the 3rd decan of Taurus, we need patience. Think of the 7 of Pentacles as a visual for that. A farmer that is looking at his crop and trying to figure out how to get rid of any pestilence or disease or pests that are coming up to threaten his crop. Oftentimes we have to go back and redo something that we may have rushed through previously. So this might be another experience where if we did something in haste, we have to go back and redo it potentially. We may have to be dealing with some things that we maybe missed during the Mercury retrograde cycle, And there's no shame in that. We all, because we have so many things going on in our lives, we all miss things every once in a while. And sometimes we have to go back and redo some things to make it work. So that's another thing that we can do with this last quarter moon. But to be able to defend our authenticity, we might have to be a little bit more patient about incorporating the new persona into our life. We may need to go back and fix some things that may have fallen into disrepair. There's also a little bit of hubris or humility within the face of nature. So there may also be some weather things that come up the last quarter moon that we have to deal with that are not necessarily our fault, but we might have to be a little bit humble in the face of forces that are greater than ourselves. All right. Okay. Oh, yes. Jeremy. Strings is Jeremy. Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate you. And I love the zebra. We actually had the zebra as a animal spirit for the astrology of August, I believe. Let's see. Let's see if I'm remembering that correctly. Yeah, the zebra was our guide for August. So it's interesting the zebra is popping up on our first day of August here. So thank you for being a vehicle for that. All right. Okay, so that's our last quarter moon. On the 22nd, the sun moves into Virgo. So here is, whoops, let's not go by hours. Let's go by days. So we've got a few days to move forward here. And here we have the moon following not too shortly after that, but the sun moves into Virgo on the 22nd, hosted by Mercury in its aversion in Leo. So we might not be able to do everything we want to do right away, but once Mercury moves into Virgo, that's like all systems go, because Mercury is exalted in Virgo and all of the resources that the sun desires will be necessary. But the big news really around that time on the 23rd is the new moon. And we will do an entire broadcast on this new moon. But this new moon, I'm really fascinated about this new moon for a number of reasons. First of which is that it's on a really powerful fixed star called Regulus. Regulus is one of the royal fixed stars of Persia. It has precessed from the end of Leo into Virgo in the past decade or so. So it's really a powerful place for empowerment through learning new skills. Especially this decade is about learning skills through an apprenticeship. So this could be a great time to sign up for a class. If maybe if you're a local friendly astrologer, has some classes that are coming up, maybe you want to get on board. Or if there's anything else that you're interested in, you could get on board with that too. I think we're going to be offering another Decan walk, a version of the Decan walk. We're going to be, keeping it fresh. We might be examining not just the solar decans, but other planets through the decans. We do that a little bit in our group, but we might have a little bit more of a focus on that. But if you've been waiting to sign up for another Decan walk, I think that's going to be coming in September and into, I think we're going to begin in October. And then there might be some other offering that's coming up that is still percolating. It's still, simmering, if you will. But as far as the new moon in Virgo, just a really important time to initiate a new process, and a powerful new process that could lead to an empowerment in your life. The next step after figuring out who you are with the Mercury retrograde in Leo is saying, well, what do we do about it? How do we make it tangible? How do we to infuse our values into something that we can make real within this world? How can we infuse spirit into a body, into a form? So a really powerful time for getting things done and for thinking about the skills that we need to be our best selves. All right. So that's kind of how this is unfolding. We've got, let's see, checking in. Definitely a cool synchronicity with the zebra. Yeah, absolutely. Right. You're our vehicle for our spirit animal that we have for the last month. And the energy of that was learning how to stand out and learning when to blend in, being able to confuse a predator through power in numbers. I think so. We have 30 people in the chat here live today. So maybe you're helping bring the power of the zebra to our channel here today, Jeremy, and I appreciate you for it. All right, Jeremy, are you one of the new folks from TikTok? We have a lot of new friends that have stopped by from TikTok. My beautiful daughter has a new TikTok channel, Sag Moon Magic, and she brought a lot of her community over here. So I've really been enjoying connecting with new people, especially with younger people. So yeah, let me know if you found me through that or where you found me through. Okay, wow, so it's definitely a cool synchronicity with the zebra. Rachel says, I agree. I had my eye on the first new moon, the first Virgo new moon of the season for a while. It feels especially significant. I agree. I think it's really powerful. And a good point, too, is that it's one of 2 Virgo new moons. We have a new moon at the very end of Virgo as well. So a really powerful time for initiating new systems in our life. Okay, so that is how this is going to unfold. So let's do this. Let's talk about our I-Ching. And I will give you an animal for this full moon. If you have any more questions, put them in the chat. We're sort of wrapping up here. Kate says, just found your IG and threads. Oh, good, good. I love this connections that are making. Okay. So the I-Ching that I have for you, friends, this is crazy. And I don't know how exactly this turned out like this, but it's the same exact one that we had for August last week. We got, oh, that's the wrong one. There we go. Sorry, there we go. Oh, I spoiled the animal. Oh, well. So I got number 5. I got hexagram number 5 again, which translates to waiting. And of course, it makes some sense that this is the hexagram that we get because we had a hexagram for the entire month of August. And now here we are in August with a full moon in August. And we got the same exact hexagram, which is fairly rare, which I think what this is teaching us is that this is a very important message that we need to really respect. So this hexagram translates to calculated waiting, biding your time, waiting for rain, nourishment, replenishment. A lot of the literature talks about how do we want to wait? When we are waiting for something to manifest in our lives, are we going to wait in fear or are we going to wait in joy and enthusiastic anticipation? That can make all the difference in something. If we're waiting in fear and anxiety, sometimes what we're doing is drawing the thing that we're fearing to us quicker through our actions and through our inability to stay calm and to stay balanced. When we anticipate something with joy, that can lead to a much better outcome because we're not running around like a chicken with our head cut off. We're not agitating the waters. Like I always use this metaphor, but the agitation of like a container of water makes it difficult to see with clarity. If we let something settle, if we let our emotions settle, if we let our thoughts settle, if we create space, if we create margin in our lives, we allow ourselves to see much clearer, and then what we are anticipating and waiting for can meet us in a much better form. So this, I think, is the message of this hexagram, is that we are still kind of in the process of something important coming down the road. Oftentimes we see really important physical manifestations in Virgo season. This full moon, main themes, we're crossing from one identity and one space to another. It's a liminal space that where we're transitioning from one state, which may have been out of alignment with our authenticity, into a newer state that is more in alignment with who we are on the inside, and that external expression is going, when it matches up, that creates a lot less stress in our lives. It is very, very stressful to be something that you are not publicly, and it's a lot of wasted energy. It's so much easier just to be yourself. It's so much easier to be kind, right? But I think that when we are trying on a new form of authenticity, it can be, first of all, it can be a little scary, and it takes some time. We can't dismantle all of our old habits right away. We can't dismantle all of our old systems right away. Sometimes we have to be patient with the process. As a student of nature, you understand that when you plant a seed in the ground, it doesn't instantly grow into a 300-foot tree. It takes many centuries for that to happen. On a smaller scale, when you plant a tomato seed in the beginning of spring, it doesn't instantly pop into a big, juicy beefsteak tomato, right? You have to go through the process. You have to go through the watering. You have to go through the nurturing. You have to eliminate the weeds. You have to check on it. You have to make sure you have the right environment. You have to make sure it has enough light, enough heat. all of those things. And when you're doing this as a trying on new personas, you're allowing yourself to take time so that that persona or that authenticity sticks, so that it isn't just like putting on something that immediately becomes uncomfortable and you backtrack. So by testing it out, by slow and steady wins the race, by being patient with the process, you're allowing yourself to have firm roots in the ground. Okay? If something grows too quickly and it doesn't have the root system underground that's supporting it, it's going to fall over. It's super important to understand that a lot of the growth that we see that is supportive is hidden. You might not see the external growth right away, but you're laying the foundation. You're laying the root system that's going to keep you upright when the storms eventually come. If you have this leggy growth that isn't supported by underground root systems, the first heavy wind that comes around is going to blow you right over. The first negative feedback you get with your new persona is going to push you right back into your shell of inauthenticity. So how do you take your time with that and go against the grain, really? Because the grain, the collective forces say more, now. You're going to miss out if you don't do all this now. It's just not the way it works, in my opinion. And I think that there is a different way that is more in alignment with natural forces that I think will lead to better longer term outcomes. Oh, let's see. Kate says, your daughter is adorable. So proud. She is. She's figuring out what she's doing online. She is a really interesting soul and someone who's gone through a lot of stuff and is really starting, I think, to turn it into something valuable and finding out who she is. And it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see her committing to helping people online and to figuring out what her true expression is and just navigating all of this. And we've been having a lot of talks about it lately too. So yeah, if you all want to go support her, you can find her Sag Moon Magic on both Instagram and TikTok. Kate says, whenever I see waiting symbolism, I read The Waiting Place by Dr. Seuss. Ooh, that's a good one. I'll have to revisit that one. Absolutely. Liminal spaces for sure. Yeah. Sometimes when we're in a liminal space, we have to go through the journey to get from one place to the next. Like if you're on an airplane, for example, you can't just snap your fingers and say, well, I'm going to be there. It's already a miracle that you're being ferried from one continent to the next, in some cases, in a few hours. But if we say we have to be there instantaneously, well, we're not going through the process. Sometimes if we get anxious on the plane, we're going to have a much worse time. But if we relax and let ourselves be ferried to the next place, we're going to arrive much more rested and ready to embrace whatever's happening in the new space. Ganymede, yes, exactly. Part of the Aquarian myth, for sure. The water bearer. The process, Javiera says, yes. Lauren says, really love all that you've said here with the essence of the moon. Spencer, thank you, Lauren. Hope everything's going well your way, my friend. It's good to see you here today. Kate says, I will be revisiting this to absorb the gems further. Oh, I love it. Well, I've got one more thing for you, friends. And that is the animal that is guiding us through this experience. It's the swan. And what a beautiful picture of a swan here. I love swans. A swan is, I think, one of my personal guides. I really resonate with the energy, especially of that ugly duckling kind of story where we felt out of place and then eventually grew into our best and most glorious expression of self that was in alignment with who we were. Funnily enough, when I was in my late 20s, I started getting into musical theater, like just randomly local musical theater. And I got cast in Honk the Musical, where I was cast as the ugly duckling that turned into the beautiful swan. I even was able to strap on my rollerblades and skate around like a beautiful, graceful swan on the stage. And it was super fun. But the swan can represent surrendering to the process of change. There's stories around swan where we talk about allowing ourselves to go through those changes and trusting in the divine, trusting in the universe to guide us towards our truest expression. If we were just to get fixated on the form that we were, let's say we were taking this metaphor and we're taking our metaphor as the quote unquote ugly ducklings, the little gray fluffy blobs. And we said, well, I'm always going to be this. And we didn't have faith in the process of growth. We would reject and become anxious about our future. Whereas if we surrender to it, those new beautiful feathers come in, we become the version of ourselves that we are always meant to be. Swan also talks about fidelity in our relationships, the ability to care about one another. We've got a beautiful Venus-Jupiter conjunction coming up in this lunar cycle that I think we can express our care and love for not only for our romantic partners, if we are lucky enough to have them, but for the people in our extended community, our neighbors, our friends, our online communities like we have here. All of these things are super valuable. So this is something where Swan can represent both love, fidelity, loyalty, soulmate energy, but also surrendering to a process that allows the divine to bring us to a new place in life, a new shore, so to speak. And what a beautiful animal to represent Aquarius II. Maybe we're being ferried on a swan ferry, a swan boat, right? I'm just imagining this little swan-shaped boat, sort of like the Lord of the Rings, right? I believe Galadriel's ferry was a swan boat. And we're just being ferried from one shore to the next by this beautiful animal and what it represents. So, my friends, that is what I've got for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. This has been a wonderful experience hanging out with you. I hope that you found value here today. I'm just going to check back in the chat before we end for the day. Javier says, oh my gosh, I got that spirit animal, the spirit animal. I got this. I keep seeing them. Oh, good. Well, this synchronicity. We're vehicles of synchronicity for you today, Javier. Rachel says, I love hearing about your theater experience. It was super fun. I really enjoyed doing that. Live theater can be a little bit stressful. It's a lot of memorization, a lot of practice, but I really enjoyed being with that group of people, with the community players around town. And I was also, right before that, I was in Beauty and the Beast. So talk about a juxtaposition. I was the insane asylum guy that took away Belle's father. I was like a really evil dude. I was a small part. But that was fun. I got to tap into the dark side of my personality, I guess. It's always fun to be able to have a healthy outlet for that. My audition, Rachel, for Honk the Musical was a rendition of Jack's Lament from The Nightmare Before Christmas. That's what got me the part, So I don't even know if I remember it all now, but it was super fun, With the slightest little effort of my ghost-like charms, I've seen grown men give out a shriek. So it was super fun, and I put a lot of energy into it. But thank you, friend. Ani says, I can see this. Yes, so I was a hockey player growing up, Ani, and I was like, hey, I know how to skate, and like I can skate really gracefully. Why don't we add this into the show? And they were like, oh, that'd be cool. So it was super cool, just skating around in the pond. All right. K Wow says 100%. A lot of us can relate to that ugly duckling. I love getting older as time allows me to bloom into me. Absolutely, friend. Amen to that. Lauren says, can your dad grace us with VHS footage of that Swanley rollerblade flight? It's still great in my imagination. Honestly, so I was 28, I think, when I did that. So I don't even know if my dad came to the show. But I think I do have it on DVD somewhere. And if I'm able to rip it and put it on there, maybe I'll put it up there, because there is video that exists of this. So we'll see. You've planted a seed. Ani says, however, I feel strongly in the assertion that no duckling is ugly. They just haven't grown into their full glory yet. I agree, 100%. And that I think is part of the beauty of that story, for sure. Thank you, Karen, for being here. Hope everything's going well over in Cleveland, Ohio. K-Wow says, Ani, I love how you put that. No ugly ducklings. Absolutely. Rachel says, Jack Skellington. Yeah, I love Jack Skellington. Sirius Black says, Andrew Lloyd Webber didn't draft you? Maybe not, friend. Maybe not. Oh, boy. Oh, thank you, friend, for the comments here. I love it. Maybe we are late bloomers, Kate. You never know. We're still in a process of becoming, no matter what age we are. Javier says, I've also been seeing white swans and black swans. Ooh, nice. Interesting symbolism there for sure. The movie should lead some insight. Yeah, absolutely. I haven't seen the Black Swan movie yet. I'm a little nervous about watching it. It seems pretty intense, but I'll have to check it out. All right, my friends. I think that's what I've got for you today. Do me a huge favor. Like this video if you can. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thank you so much for being here today, for all of your comments, all of your insights. Thank you for those of you who have contributed intellectually, physically, monetarily. All of those things are going towards sustaining us here. Thank you so much for that. Tell a friend about it. We are there's not a whole lot of rules here. Just be kind to everyone in the chat, and it's a welcoming community. And I really appreciate you being here. Go find me over at Spencer Michaud on Instagram, Threads, etc. And then if you want to reach out for a reading, or if you want to sign up for the Dignity and Devotion webinar on Saturday, August the 9th, if you want to support the channel like that, and my beautiful partner Tanya Andrews of Third Coast Mojo, you can go over to spencermichaud.com. That's going to be coming up a week from tomorrow. I hope to see all of you there. That's what I've got for you. Thanks again, friends. Appreciate all of you for stopping in. Have a great day, and we'll see you the next time. Remember to be kind to one another, okay? That starts with being kind to yourself. If you accept yourself and you surrender to what you're becoming, right? I think that it's going to be a lot easier to carry that energy out into the world. All right, friends. Take care. Peace.